Cool. We are here.
See, they're rolling in yet? Here they come.
All right. All right.
Excellent.
Welcome, everyone.
I see there's
Good
still
times.
people in.
Let's get some people up in
There we go.
here. All right. All right.
Well, welcome everybody to today's exciting webinar we have. We're incredibly fortunate to have Gus with us here today, who's a renowned expert in the real estate and inside sales. He's the founder and CEO of PowerISA, if you guys were not aware of, and their company is, devoted to empowering real estate professionals to enhance their prospecting skills and convert more leads. And under his leadership, PowerISA has been instrumental in assisting real estate agents to overcome common prospecting mistakes and optimizing their approaches to connecting with sellers more effectively. And that's what we're going to accomplish here today. But before we dive into today's topic of biggest mistakes when prospecting for sellers, let's all wish Gus a very happy birthday here. Just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I couldn't have thought of a better way to spend my birthday than with all you guys, the audience. So it's gonna be it's a little cherry on top today. It's a special one.
Definitely. And I feel like you'll even be a little bit more passionate about it too, because you're having such a great day.
Here we go. Boom, boom, boom.
All right. Well,
Showtime.
I'll let you kick it off here and take us through what you got.
Yeah, absolutely. So welcome everybody. Thanks for jumping in today. Would love, thank you so much, Jessica. People saying happy birthday. Appreciate that. If people can drop a comment and tell me where they're joining us from, that would be awesome. Just city and state or city and province for you Canucks out there. Just let us know where you're joining us from. I'd love to get a little bit of context of where everyone's, because if everyone's from California, I'll focus a little bit more on that. But if you guys are from all over, that'd be great. That'd be great to hear. So drop a comment. Let us know where you guys are joining us from. And Trenton, help me out if we get like questions, comments, let me know, because I'm gonna go off. And you know how I am, man. I'm just gonna keep going with the topic. Slow me down. Let me know if anyone needs some help. So we got folks we got Arizona, we got Florida, California, of course, LA. Go to LA. Puerto Vallarta, man. Oh, holy cow! I'm only a few hours away from you, Eric. Cool. Nashville, Tennessee, Wisconsin, Florida. Okay, we got people from all over. That's good. A good mix. We got some East Coast, West Coast, a little bit of the middle too. And we got the Mexico dwellers. I'm in Mexico right now. So love it. All right, let's get started, folks. Let's get right into it, right? You're here to learn about prospecting, and you're here to learn what not to do, right? When you're doing prospecting. So let me give a little bit of context here, right? This is why this is so important. And you guys are feeling this, right? In only 2 metro areas, right? And I think it's like Austin and I think it's like, Phoenix, where we're seeing an increase in inventory from a year ago. In 99% of the major metro areas in the US, this is data from 2023, we're seeing less listings than we saw a year ago. You guys are feeling this, right? Even with interest rates hovering from 7 to 8%, prices are going up. It's because of this. Even with 7 to 8% interest rates, there are still less buyers than available inventory because for a lot of reasons. I'm not smart enough to tell you exactly why. I know people locking in their interest rates at 3% has a lot to do with it, but this is the reality. I don't know the exact causes of this. I know what's happening right now, and this is what we're seeing in the marketplace. Check this out. I'm always surprised by this graph, right? We are now over 3 years after the start of the COVID pandemic. And this data point right here, August of 2023, we've got about 600,000 active listings in the US. If you look at August 2019, it's almost 1.3 million active listings in the US, okay? We are not even at half of where we were in the market before the pandemic. We're not even at half, and that's been pretty consistent. Even 3 years later, we're not at half the level of inventory that we were seeing. And before 2020, it was not a buyer's market, right? It was not a buyer's market. It didn't go into overdrive like we saw the last few years, but it was still considered a seller's market. And now, even more so, right? So really important to understand. And if that weren't enough, right? That's concerning. We're seeing that information. It's frustrating. If that weren't enough, we're seeing the headlines. If you guys are reading headlines, it's like, oh my goodness, we have these class action lawsuits. They're going to change the industry. Oh my God. Oh my God. 8% interest rates. OMG. And then we've got, then AI. Is AI going to replace real estate agents, and to what degree? We've got all of these things in the background, right? We've got all of these, or maybe at the forefront of what you're worried about, what you're concerned about. But I am here to give you, I think I'm here to give you the good news, okay? I'm here to give you some good news, because in the US, right? I'm going to focus on the US right now. In this year, 2023, we're going to sell somewhere between 4 to 4.5 million homes this year. That's what the current estimate is. This is taking into consideration what we've sold up to now, okay? 4 to 4.5 million homes. 8 to 9 million sides are going to be generated this year, okay? So I'm going to give you one thing that you need to focus on, and this will solve all of your problems, right? If you're having a good year, if you're having a bad year, if you're having a flat year, some people consider that a terrible year, flat year. I want you to focus on this one thing, and it will solve all of your problems. And that is, focus on having as many real estate conversations as you can on a daily basis, okay? That is it, folks. Everything I mentioned before, the AI wave, the lawsuits, the inventory levels, the sale, the macroeconomy, the election, the Fed. Again, I'm not saying those things don't matter. They absolutely matter, and they absolutely impact you. But you have zero control over whether those things are going to happen or not, okay? Let's be honest here. You have zero control, okay? What you can control in this environment is having as many real estate focused conversations as you possibly can on a daily basis. And there are many ways to do that. Number one way most agents do that is prospecting, marketing, and reaching out to their own database, right? That is the number one way you can generate. Because if you are I just had a client of mine, coaching client of mine, come to PowerISA and say, Gus, I'm used to having 15 to 25 transactions a year, like clockwork, right? Her referral and recommendation, her own data would just give her, on the low end, 15, and the high end, 20, 25, easily, in a major metro area in the US. This year, 2023, they gave her 4, okay? 4 transactions from her database. And I said, okay, well, how are you marketing to your database? How many times you're calling your database? What are you doing to prospect your database? And she had never called her database, okay? And so let me just tell you that. The reason I say that, not to put down anybody else, but to tell you, you cannot do the same thing you did last year and expect the same kind of result. You can't do the same thing. This agent, and credit to them, by the way, sat down and wrote down their database for the first time ever, okay? Came up with a list of 400 people that already knew, liked, and trusted her, okay? And she set up an event, invited them all to it, an event about to educate them on the VA loan, had a lender partner with her on this. They got a Mexican restaurant, 60 people agreed to attend, and almost 40 attended, okay? So she went from having a dry pipeline, not having anyone to work with, not having anything to do, right, to having 60 people in the pipeline, all right? But she had to go out and generate those conversations. She had to go out and touch those people, had to go out and generate those leads, right? Hence why it's called lead generation, folks. It's not, we're great at lead reception. I'm a champion of that too. Don't worry, I love receiving leads. I love receiving deals. But in this kind of an environment, you got to go out and reach them, right? You got to go out there and find those conversations, generate that demand. Because if you were used to having it come to you, market's shifting and you can be left behind if you keep doing the same things you did last year, the year before that, okay? You're left behind. Another way people generate real estate conversations is through online marketing, organic marketing, paid ads, getting people to come in and reach out to you and start that real estate conversation. And one of my favorite ways to generate conversations consistently on a daily basis is prospecting, outbound prospecting. And that's why you guys are here today, right? Because you want to hear how to do it, you want to learn what not to do, which is the same thing as learning how to do it properly, okay? You want to make sure you're not making these mistakes so you can get the most out of your outbound prospecting campaigns. All right. But the core principle is this. Outbound prospecting is one way to do this. Find your way if you don't like prospecting. If you're on this call because you hate prospecting, well, that's kind of a self-loathing thing to do. I'd be a little worried, right? But if you're on this call, it's because you want to get better at this. This is one way to do it. This is one way to do it, right? Let's jump into it. If you guys want to do outbound prospecting for sellers at a high level, you have to solve 3 problems. And I like this. I came up with this simple framework with Coach John D. Smith. He's a master prospector, been doing it for 20 years in 2 different markets. You have to solve 3 problems. Number 1, you have to do the activities that are even going to get you in contact with a seller. Okay. First problem to solve. Number 2, once you're in contact with that seller, you've got to close for the appointment, right? They have to agree to meet with you with the purpose of figuring out what to do with their home. You can get a lot of reasons to sneak into someone's home, right? I'm talking about the real deal, like actually talking to them about getting their home sold, and they want to meet with you, okay? And then the third thing is, once you meet with them, you want to emerge from that interaction with a signed listing agreement. Those are essentially the 3 main problems you have to solve when you're doing outbound prospecting. It's this. And let me tell you right now, the number 1 issue people deal with is number 1. That's usually where people trip up, they mess up, and they have an issue. Rarely, and I talk to people doing this work every single day. We manage over 350 different ISAs that are doing, a lot of them are doing this work, outbound pro. Not all of them, but a lot of them are doing this kind of projects. And the number 1 issue that agents run into, or ISAs, is even getting in contact with the sellers, okay? That's the first problem. That's a big one. But once you solve that one, you have to solve the second one. And once you solve the second one, you have to solve the third one, okay? It's an increasing level of problem. It's a class C problem, class B problem, class A problem, okay? Rarely do I ever see an agent come to me or one of our coaches and say, you know what, I'm going to all these listing appointments and I'm not getting the listing. It's usually, their problems are way before that. They usually have to solve much simpler problems, because that one, it increases in scale, and you need more practice, right, for any of these, but it's a progression. It's a progression. And you got to focus on step by step. You cannot spend all your time preparing for the listing appointment if you're not going on any listing appointments, folks. Solve the first problem first, talk to a bunch of sellers, get them to meet with you, and get them to sign on the listing. That is it. And remember this framework. It's a really simple one, because every one of these mistakes, I'm going to refer to which part of this framework are we referring to. All right, here we go. And in no particular order, I'm going to talk about the biggest mistakes you can make when doing outbound prospecting for sellers. Let's jump into it. Number 1, okay? Number 1, you ignore your contact rate, okay? What does that mean? What is contact rate? It's the number of conversations you have in every dialing session. I don't care if you're doing it 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, 2 hours a day. It doesn't matter, right? The number, it's the same. How many conversations did you have? How many dials did it take you to have those conversations? That's it, okay? That's it. In the US right now, 2023, the state-of-the-art technology is going to get you somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 10% contact rate, okay? 5 to 10%. You got to dial 20 numbers to get 1 solid contact. It can be as good as 10 numbers and get 1 solid contact. Your mileage will vary, right? You get, some people tell me, Gus, I can dial 5 numbers and get a contact. So that's great. I'm talking about averages that we see across the entire country. 5 to 10% is average. Below 5%, you got some problems to fix. Above 10%, you're amazing. Like, I love you. This is great. It's great, right? So you gotta realize, you gotta calculate this. You gotta figure this out, because, and here's the biggest trip up people have on this. It's very easy to focus on dials. Oh, I need a 3-line dialer. If you use a tool like Call Tools, I can do 10-line dialers. I can do 15-line dialers. Folks, that's not the goal. The goal is not to dial as many numbers as humanly possible. That's not the goal. The goal is to have actual conversations. Remember the guiding principle I gave you. The guiding principle. have as many real estate focused conversations as you can on a daily basis. That's the goal. Okay. That's the goal. And most agents, when they want to do this, they strictly focus on how many dials are they doing, right? And that's just the wrong thing. Because and we've measured this, folks. We published this in Lab Code Agents. It's almost a year ago. We published our own study we did on it. We tested single line dialing. We have a cold calling team within the company. We tested single line dialing. We tested 2-line dialing, and then we tested 3-line dialing. The same team, essentially the same list, very similar lists, over a 5-day time frame. Okay, we tested it out and we measured it. The dialing sequence that gave us the highest amount of actual contacts and conversations was the 2-line dialer. Okay, the 2-line dialer. All right. So dialing as fast as humanly possible doesn't necessarily give you more conversations, but you've got to realize this. You've got to realize this. Another issue that can really trip people up. You've got to make sure that your number is not getting tagged as spam. All right. That is not getting tagged as spam. And there's a whole, topic you can go into on why that is, how it happens. The telephone carriers can tag your number as spam. The operating systems, iOS, Android, can tag your number as spam. So there's many ways that your number can kind of be tagged as spam. You've got to remain compliant. If you are dialing 500 numbers with a single phone number in a single day, you are begging for them to tag you as spam. Right? Our friends over at Call Tools tell us you should not do more than 100 dials per number per day. No more than 100 dials per number per day to get the maximum amount of contacts with that number and lower the likelihood you're going to get tagged as a spam, unsolicited call, potential scam. There's all these different tags, and you see them. You can get a call. You see these, right? So you don't want to do that, because I have seen contact rates go down to 0. Okay. If you ignore this and you do no mitigation on spam, your contact rates will become 0 eventually. It can take a couple of days. It can take a couple of weeks. It will go down to 0. And this is the reason. Okay. And how do you deal with this? Technology, folks. Mojo, Vulcan, RedX, Call Tools, they all have technology to essentially help you load balance your numbers, okay? Don't make an inordinate amount of dials on a single line in a single day. The technology is here to help you. Be aware of it, use it. It's not on by default, okay? And I don't know why, maybe that's a compliance thing, I'm not sure why, but you actually have to enable this technology. Talk to the vendor, talk to Mojo, talk to Call Tools, and ask them how to enable this to make sure that your numbers are not like immediately tagged as spam, right? And if you're doing outbound prospecting, in a few hours, your number can be tagged as spam, right? If you're not following these recommendations, you have to take the steps to maximize the amount of people you talk to on a daily basis. All right, great.
But Gus, I'm curious, how does PowerISA address the issue of these ignored contact rates? And then also, how do you guys help optimize the contact rates with the different lead sources?
I love, that's a great question, Trenton. So we have, ISA coaches that help look for these issues, because ultimately what we first see is you don't see any conversions. That's that immediately, right? So we walk it back. How many? So I go 0 conversions. How many people did we talk to that day? How many dials did it take us to talk to those people? And usually the answer is right there. You're either not making enough calling attempts, your calling attempts are not generating enough conversations, or the conversations you're generating, the ISA is not skilled enough to convert them, right? It's one of those 3 problems. It's always one of those 3 problems, right? The first problem is more a technology issue. The second one can be a spam or dialing too fast or the quality of your list. And the third problem, if you're talking to enough people and just getting out conversions, that's a scripting practice training issue, right? So we help people find out where the problem is. And it's really, in our end of day reports are the simplest thing ever. How many call attempts, how many conversations, how many conversions. I can almost tell you what you're calling just by looking at those 3 numbers, what kind of a list you're calling. You don't have to tell me. Just looking at those 3 numbers, we know what the answer is in most cases, right? So, but that's how we do it. We look at those numbers and we help our clients realize, because this isn't that obvious, folks. And then tweaking and optimizing the dialer. Let's say we're doing the largest, the most comprehensive kind of dialing is like circle prospecting, because you want to cover a lot of ground very quickly with circle prospect. It's unique that way. So if you're using, there's only 2 dialers you recommend for that. Actually, let me go on to the next slide, because we're talking about the technology that we use, right? That we recommend. If we're talking about dialers, if you're doing circle prospecting, we only recommend 2, because these are the ones that our clients have the most success with: Call Tools and Mojo, right? And we don't go with just one. I don't make any, well, Mojo doesn't get, I'm not an affiliate for Mojo. I am an affiliate for Call Tools. I recommend both, to be really honest with you guys. I don't care. I'm not going to, not recommend one because I don't get $50 from them once a year, right? So both of them are excellent. If you're going to be doing circle prospecting, you have to get Call Tools or Mojo. Like, you have to. There's no if, and, or buts, right? If you're going to do circle prospecting, I recommend you get your leads from RedX GeoLeads, probably one of the best GeoLead products out there right now, RedX GeoLeads, or Vulcan 7 Neighborhood Search. It's a little pricier, Vulcan 7 is, right? And regardless of which one you use, you've got to layer on top the premium data. Do it. Yes, it costs more. It does cost more. And it also costs a lot of money to waste your time with really bad contact lists, okay? So I have not seen anyone have success with circle prospecting that isn't using premium data. That's just a fact, right? And RedX didn't pay me. I'm an affiliate for both too. RedX had Vulcan 7, so I love them both. They're great companies. But I'm telling you right now, without the premium data, I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't purchase it without the premium data. It makes that much of a difference. Okay. And if we're talking about expired, for sell by owner, canceled, withdrawns, the same ones. RedX, Vulcan 7, they're great. And depending on where you are, you might get a slightly better result with one versus the other. Try it. These are the ones that I'm seeing the best results with, kind of across the board. So this is the technology we recommend to solve this problem, okay? You get a quality list, you get the right dialer with the right technology, then you're going to mitigate 99% of the issues you see with your contact rate. Your contact rate matters. It is a contact rate game. Outbound prospecting in 2023, like I said, 5 to 10% contact rate. That's it, folks. That is good. 5 to 10%, you're doing a good job. If you don't use any of this technology, you're never going to get to that number, right? It's not going to happen, because we're seeing this across the country. And these contact rates have been going down for years, okay? Back in, when we started PowerISA in 2015, we get higher contact rates, right? It was high. More people were picking up the phone. It's harder nowadays to do before, but it still works if you do it properly and you optimize for that contact rate. And Trenton, I'm not lying. The number one question we deal with when I do my coaching calls with clients, this is the number one issue. We're always making sure that we're optimizing, we're tweaking to make sure this number does not get out of whack. Because if you're not talking to enough people, everything else is going to take longer. It's not going to work, right? You got to make sure this is step number one. All right, cool. Let's move on. Mistake number 2, okay? People, so this is a little bit of a gripe I have when people talk about prospecting. They want to group together expired and FSBO and absentees and probates. They all talk about like it's one thing, okay? And that it's all should be done kind of the same way. And this is a big mistake I see. Or they group together expired and FSBO. I'm going to be calling expireds and FSBOs like it's the same thing. You can buy them all from RedX. That's true. I mean, you'll just go in there, pay them $150, you'll get all of these things. That's great. But they are not the same, okay? They could not be more different, probably, all right? They need different scripts. And I want to give you some examples, okay? If we're talking about, let's just look at expired, okay? Expired listings, to convert expired listings nowadays, number one, you've got to try to be the first person, a brand new expired. You've got to try with all your might to be the first person that talks to them, which means dialing them at 7:58 a.m. local time, okay? Because you can legally start calling them at about 8 a.m. But that's already too late, or 8:01, 8:02. 50 other agents trying to reach them, okay? So you got to try and be the first person to talk to them, and it can take 10 to 15 attempts in a single day, all right? And I'm not exaggerating that number, okay? Especially for the more desirable ones. Expired listings, if you're just blanket calling every expired listing, you've already lost. There's not enough time to call everyone. You've got to zero in, pinpoint the ones you like the best, the more desirable expired listings, the ones that are nearest to you, they're a great looking property, saying, I could sell this home, right? And you've got to call them, you've got to text them, you've got to use voicemails. I'll talk about that in a second. And you've got to leave them something at their door. And most agents don't do maybe one of those things, right? Do maybe one of those things. It is a customized approach. It's a very similar approach to canceled and withdrawn listings. Very similar. But those two, I'll give you that they're much more similar. They're much more similar, okay? Expired, canceled, withdrawns. For sell by owner are a completely different game, folks. It is a completely different game, okay? For sell by owner, again, also a hand raiser, motivated seller. They want to sell their home. They're trying to do it right then and there. But folks, they are very confident that they don't need you, okay? For whatever reason, I have empathy. They want to give it a shot. That's great. If you're calling the for sale by owner on the first day they list, they get on the market, and you're trying to get them to give you the listing appointment, there's a 99.9 chance you're not going to get anywhere with them, okay? 99.9. It's not going to work. Why? Because they're very optimistic they're going to be able to sell it themselves, okay? And a certain percentage do sell it themselves. Let's be honest here, right? In every market, when inventory goes down, for sell by owners go up. It has an inverse relationship to where the listing inventory is. If there's an inventory crunch, there's more for sell by owners. They feel that, oh, this will sell itself, and some of them do. Some of them do. The majority of them don't, though. Majority of them do not. And depending on your market, those numbers are going to change. NAR has their statistic. Something like 70, 80% are going to list with an agent. That's a national statistic, right? So you've got to reach out to them. And in my recommendation, I really like Brandon Mulrenan's. Coach Brandon Mulrenan, he's a client. He's a partner of PowerISA. I love his approach. And his approach is very simple. You reach out to them right away. And you agree with it. Hey, that's awesome. I'm glad that you're trying to sell it on your own. I hope you do, right? If you sell it on your own, that's awesome, okay? But initially, the strategy is to position yourself as their plan B. But if for whatever reason, it doesn't work out for you, I want to throw my hat in the ring. I want to be your plan B, right? Is it okay if I reach out to you regularly just to check in and see how things are doing and see if I can help you in any way? Is that fair? Great, okay? Because it is very hard to say no to that. It's very hard to say no to that, all right? Very difficult too. And that's how you open the door with it for sale by owner. And typically, you're going to see them kind of waffle and wane within 7 to 15 days. 15 days is usually the sweet spot where the ones that are the most motivated, they need to sell. And they realize it's not going to be as easy as they thought. They might not be getting any offers. They might be getting a lot of showings and no offers. They might not be getting anything but calls from agents. They get very frustrated, folks. Empathize with them, okay? Empathize. Hey, they might be angry that you're calling them. Get another real estate agent calling them. Hey, I'd be totally sick of agents calling me too, right? But here's the rub. I can do this for you. And I'd love to see if it's time for us to chat on what I can do to get your home sold, okay? It takes multiple touches to get a for sale by owner to kind of come to grips with reality, right? They got to have a kind of come to Jesus moment. And for some people, it's a week or two. For some people, it's a month or two, right? I had a client out of the Chicago suburb, Chicagoland, that hired an ISA to do this because he knew that it would take 8 to 9 touches, all right, to get that FSBO, to even, not an appointment, to agree to talk to the agent, because the ISA is doing the follow-up, right? It would take 8 to 9 touches, and for them, it was like 8 to 9 weeks to get them to kind of give up and accept the call from the agent like that. Okay, let's see what you can do for me. I'll give you a shot, one phone call, and go from there. Okay? That's the for sale by owner. Absentee owner, also known as for rent by owner. And these can be huge in some markets, by the way, right? If you have a lot of people that are investors, renters, mom and pop, owners, then some markets have 10,000 of these in one zip code, right? You can have thousands of these. It just depends where you are. But this is a great lead source because it is typically not as prospected as expired for sale by owner. Expired for sale by owner, you're going to be competing with the whole crop of prospectors out there. But absentee owners, you're not. It's less competition from agents. It's more competition from investors. A lot of investors, especially the last 3 years, they know what COVID did to the landlord class in this country, right? It was tough. It's been a difficult 3 years for a lot of landlords in a lot of these states because of the moratoriums, because of all these things, right? So a lot of investors came in and souped up those properties or tried to. The difference between you and an investor is you actually want them to get highest and best for that property. And you want to lead with that. Okay. That is the difference with this script. Hey, I'm not an investor. I'm not a wholesaler. I actually want to find out if you'd be willing to accept the highest and best value for this property, right? If you got a great offer for this property, would you accept it? Yes or no? I'm just curious about that, right? That's the intro to an absentee owner script, right? Very, very different approach, right? Next, circle prospecting. Again, completely different than the other three. Circle prospecting is canvassing. It's phone call door knocking, right? You're calling the phone book. You're trying to, it's a numbers game, true numbers game. Try to talk to as many people as possible to find who might be thinking of buying or selling a home in the next 6 to 12 months, right? That's it. For circle prospecting, you just need to be nice on the phone. You got to be pleasant sounding, right? And you got to do it a lot of times. That's it. There's no magic to circle prospecting. It is a numbers game. It is a grind, okay? You've got different time frames you're going to do this in, right? Different skill levels. Another little nugget here on customizing your approach is old expireds. Folks, and I have a lot of clients that are killing it with this right now. Throughout the whole summer, they were killing it because for old expireds that expired last year, I'm talking about September, October, November, December of 2022, they feel they missed the boat, okay? Their prices, I don't know if you remember this, it was almost a year ago, January of this year, the market hit the bottom in the US, okay? January, February of this year. So a lot of listings went expired, went canceled during that time frame because they felt they had missed the market. They missed the mark. Well, guess what, right? Prices have gone up in almost every major market in the US throughout the spring and the summer, calling these people up and saying, hey, if you could get more money for your home than you anticipated, would you consider selling? I'm just curious. That's it. That's the question for the old expireds. If you could get more money than you thought last time, would you still sell your home? What were you thinking of doing if you sold it? Where were you going to? Why do you think it didn't sell? The typical expired listing questions, right? But the intro is very different. And it's a great time to call the old expireds because a lot of them are very frustrated, very mad. They're hating the market, they're hating life, they're hating the agents because they feel they missed the boat. And guess what? In some markets in the US this summer, they reached a new peak. They went above the summer of 2022. Summer of 2023 set some records in a lot of markets. Not every market, but it set a lot of new records in a lot of markets, okay? So it's a great time to be calling some of these old expireds and give them the good news. And this applies to the absentee owners as well. Give them the good news. They might have thought of selling and they felt they missed the mark. Tell them what's actually going on in your market, educate them, and try to help them out, okay? Cool. Let's go on the next one.
Real quick before you jump into there, as we're talking about the customizing your approach, how does PowerISA, adapt to those different market conditions and skill levels of agents to ensure that the approach is always relevant and effective?
Oh, I love that. And, Trent, I want to put a pin on that because I'm going to talk about that exact problem 100%, because you're right. Every one of these strategies, it takes a different skill level. My opinion is that a brand new expired or a brand new for sale by owner is a different skill level when you're talking about setting the appointment, okay? It takes a higher skill level, objection handling experience to set that appointment with an expired or for sale by owner. Absentee owners, circle prospecting, old expireds, it's a different game. It's not as aggressive. There's much less competition, and you just have a conversation with them. And if you guys connect, you can move forward, right? So it's a very, very, I love the question. But I want to get to that in another one of these mistakes, okay? Great question. Hold it there. Cool. Another mistake a lot of agents make, you don't leave voicemails. I want to be specific here. Because, we're talking about problem number one. We're still talking about problem number one with this mistake number three. Problem number one, even getting in contact with the seller. Many agents struggle with this. They're not talking to anyone, right? And the people they're talking to are hanging up. They're just not, you're an agent, click, right? Hang up. This is the first problem you need to solve. One of the ways you can do this is leave a voicemail, but don't leave the same voicemail that everyone else is leaving, okay? And I got this from Coach John D. Smith. He leaves these voicemails and more of them like them, but this is like simple examples of each. And he can get a 20 to 30% response rate. That's huge in this space, by the way. Huge, right? 20, 30% response rate. If you're leaving in the voicemail for an expired or canceled person, you just want to ask them, are you still accepting offers on this property? That's it. I'm Gus with ABC Realty, and I just want to ask, are you still accepting offers on the property? I'd love to talk to you. Let me know. I'll talk to you right away, right? Urgent call, urgent call. If it's a for sale by owner that you're not able to reach, again, some of them it's hard to reach them, amazingly, right? Because they want people to reach out to them, but they might get in the shell. You just want to ask them, is 123 Main Street still available? You just want to know that. And that starts the conversation, okay? If you're talking to an absentee owner, this is the one text message or voicemail that no landlord wants, like an absentee remote landlord, no one wants to receive. Are you the owner of 123 Main Street? ... Right? That's it. That's going to get your attention. Voicemails are about getting their attention. Folks, do not try to pitch on a voicemail. Don't pitch on a text message. Don't tell them why you're the best agent for them. It is not useful. It is too easy to ignore. And you sound like every other agent that's trying to reach out to them, okay? They're not going to read through a big wall of text. They're not going to listen to a 5-minute voicemail. Make it brief, make it valuable, and leave a voicemail that'll actually get your response, okay? That's what you need to do. All right, mistake number 4, okay? Now we're moving up the value chain, by the way. We're moving up the value chain. Now we're talking about sellers you've actually got in contact with. If you corrected the first 3 mistakes, now you've got a higher order problem, okay? Not every call is going to lead to an appointment right away. This is like a big shock to some people, right? They're expecting to call expired and FSBOs and Absentee, and they're getting a bunch of these appointments right off the bat. Not necessarily, right? Not necessarily. The majority of your money is going to be made on the follow-up. The biggest mistake I see in this space is that your follow-up game is weak, folks. It's too weak. It is too weak. If you don't get the appointment right away, you throw away the lead. Not interested. You follow up 2 or 3 months later, and they've already listed the home. Surprise, surprise, right? I hate doing that, right? Finally following up with a lead because you had discarded it, only to realize they've already got the home sold. Not happy moment for me, but it happens, right? How do we avoid it? You've got to realize that most of these calls, the majority of them, are going to result in what we call a nurture, or a qualified seller lead. Confirmed homeowner with some curiosity, some desire to sell, but they're not ready right then and there, okay? For maybe for a lot of valid reasons, maybe for really valid reasons, maybe for it doesn't matter. They're not ready to go right then and there. The way I like to think about this is for the folks that do internet lead generation from Facebook, from Google, from whatever, once the lead has been generated, it's a conversion game. This is no different. This is no different. And we have all of this process and these roles. ISA, is the role that helps with these kind of things. It came into being because of that, but it's the same problem. It is a conversion problem at that point, okay? It is a follow-up game. And one tool that I see very few agents use when it comes to cold leads that they generate into qualified nurtures is they don't use their newsletters, okay? And I'm channeling my inner Ricky Carruth, because Ricky's a huge proponent of this, right? And I think he nailed it, because a lot of my clients do this with great results, and they do it with circle prospecting, by the way, okay? Which is like the lowest converting activity out there. But if they use it effectively, follow up, and they use a newsletter, you can get results from that. And a newsletter is that, don't be intimidated by that, okay? A newsletter should have 3 parts. Something local, real estate news, right? What's going on in the market? You should feature a business, feature some events going on locally in the community, and you should have a deal of the week. That's it. Keep it simple, guys. Keep it simple. Add some value, give them some news, and keep going. This should be part of every agent's follow-up game. Every lead that you generate from cold prospecting, you should at least minimum follow up with it, phone call, voicemail, once every 30 days. Minimum. Okay. And if they told you that they're going to be ready in 6 months, you call them in month number 1 or number 2, do not ask them if they're ready to sell. Call them to add some value, to give them some news, to share a piece of content, some information that could be helpful for them. Okay. Do not call them 30 days later if they told you they're going to sell in a year. Call them 30 days later to share some valuable information with them. And by the way, ask them how the process is going, right? Very different approach with very different results. Too many agents just called to check in. It gets annoying. It's not valuable. It's not useful. They stop picking up the phone. They stop responding. They stop caring about you. And they're not going to think about you when the time comes, okay? Focus on this. This is an art form. This takes some effort. Do not make low effort, weak follow-ups, right? Valuable, useful follow-up calls, text, emails are going to win, okay? Enough said about that.
I was just
Let's
chatting.
we got a few minutes left here. So what's up, friend?
I was just chatting with someone about in the group text here about making sure to provide that special follow-up, whether it be a video text or a video in an email, to be able to put to a face, to a name, to a voice.
Video, and my favorite is to make it contextual, which is why automation is not great at this, by the way. Automation is not great at this game. Not yet. Maybe we'll, with AI and everything, it might change. But automation is not great at this right now. You got to share a piece of content that's relevant, valuable to them. You can share a listing. Every seller is a buyer first. They are a buyer first. Give them information that's useful to a buyer. A hot listing, a great loan program, some great news you got that's useful for them in the market, right? Whatever it is, every seller is a buyer first and foremost. And you shouldn't ignore that. You should use that to your advantage. What would a buyer in this market want to know about? Inventory situation, interest rates, loans. Give them options, right? Give them ways to make this happen. They can sell their home probably pretty easily in most markets, but buying a home is a challenge. How do you bridge that gap? Help them out, right? Be a resource to them. Great. Next one. Okay, and this is a killer. This is a big one, guys. Unrealistic expectations. Whether you have an ISA or you're doing this solo, it doesn't matter, right? Folks, you cannot go into it expecting you're going to make a bunch of calls and get a bunch of appointments just because, okay? How many agents are calling these same lists matters a lot, right? Your own skill level is a huge factor in how good you're gonna be at this, okay? And for those that are still hanging out with us, I've got a special bonus at the end of this presentation. It's gonna help you with a lot of these problems. It is 100% free. So for you warriors that are still with us 40 minutes in, you're gonna be rewarded because I'm gonna help you out with this one. It's really gonna be a great one, right? And just understand that not every call ends up as an appointment, and temper those expectations because it is a farming activity, is a prospecting activity, and go into it. If you go into it with that expectation and generating as many seller opportunities as possible every single day, even if they're not appointments, that's a big shift, folks. That is a big shift. Understanding that you're making progress, even if you're not making appointments, if you're generating qualified sellers every single day. Those are going to convert into listing opportunities, okay? Understand that. But if you go into it expecting a bunch of listing opportunities right off the bat, you're going to get very frustrated and you're going to give up right away. You're not even going to last a month into it, okay? You're playing the wrong game. Unrealistic expectations. Let's go into the last one here, okay? Mistake number 6, you don't know how to leverage an ISA to make calls. Once you've got, so this is really important to understand. You don't start prospecting with an ISA, okay? You don't start with an ISA. An ISA adds leverage. An ISA needs to plug in to an existing system that works, okay? If you've never called an expired, for sale by owner, absentee, or circle prospected, the odds that an ISA is going to help you there is very low, okay? I'm going to be charitable here and just say it's very low. If you've done these calls before, you know what it's like. You know how to convert these leads and take them to the finish line. An ISA can help blow up your business because an ISA, their main job is actually, in this role we just described, their main value is actually not in setting a bunch of appointments for you. I've not seen that work out great. Their main value they can add is generating as many qualified sellers as possible on a daily basis, as many real estate conversations as they can, okay? They are doing the grunt work to talk to 100 people so you can talk to 3 people that are the most responsive, the most motivated, qualified sellers. That is their job, right? And I can take it's a mindset shift as well, right? Because a lot of people want to go into it saying, hey, the ISA is going to set a bunch of appointments. I'm going to go list them and we're going to be happy. It doesn't work out that way. The ISA gives you at-bats. They give you the low-hanging fruit, and they might have to nurture them on their own until they're ready to talk to you, right? But they're going to give you the opportunity. The rest of it is up to you, okay? You have to solve the second and third problem. You got to solve the problem of setting the appointment with them, and you got to solve the problem of getting them to sign. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. The ISA solves the first problem and tease out the second one. That is it, folks, okay? That is it. And not understanding that can lead you to failure, right? Very, very easily. But if all you need is to talk to more motivated sellers, an ISA is a dream come true. It can help leverage your time and add more qualified nurtures into your pipeline. All right, folks, one more minute. We're almost done. And for the folks that are interested, we have these case studies of folks. Some of these case studies are agents doing it on their own, by the way. Some of them are doing it with ISAs, but not all of them. We've got Calvin, 23 for sale by owners closed in the last 12 months with his ISA team. Kemp Brown, 50 expired sellers closed in the last 12 months. You really should check out this talk. It's an interview I did with him. Jonathan Tiedman, 7 deals in 4 months from Circle Prospecting. Amazing interview right there. Ben Riles, 3 million in escrow within 90 days with his ISA team. Folks, each one of these has a different lead source. For sale by owner, expired, Circle, and Ben Riles is absentee owners, by the way. So you pick one, right? Pick one that you like the best and find a way to reach out to them and get specialized there. I promise a bonus for you guys. Here's the last bonus. Okay, so we talked about figuring out ways to get better at setting appointments with for sale by owners and expireds and converting them into listing agreements, right? Well, at PowerISA, we have a free coaching call, a free expired and FSBO coaching call, Fridays at 10 a.m. Central inside our Facebook group. So a free call, absolutely free, okay? If you have a question about getting better at converting expired and for sale by owners, canceled, withdrawn, the same thing. I just summarize it by saying expired and FSBO. If you can join these calls, 100% free. We do them every 2 weeks inside this group. Check it out. The group is called PowerISA Marketing Mastermind. Check it out. You guys are welcome to join anytime. And that's what I got, folks. We are done. We're a few minutes over, but hopefully it was a useful one for you guys.
Gus, this has been amazing. A lot of great feedback from the audience as well. Great information. They're excited about the free offering. Very helpful. So very appreciative of everything that you've shared so far today. Even more coming in as for the thank yous.
Yeah, definitely. And the next call is Friday, by the way. If you guys want to jump in and join and listen on that call, submit a question, tell us about your situation, see how we can help. Me and Coach John D. Smith, master prospector, 20 years in the business, converting expired and canceled right now, in the market of right now. You guys should join. We'll be there live Friday, 10 a.m. Central.
10 a.m. Central, Ryan. That's what he was asking. Vanessa wanted to say happy birthday one more time. And again,
thank
Gus,
you. Thanks, everybody.
There's a link in there as well for the mastermind, as well as to sign up with PowerISA using the LCA link for a free dialer for 1 year as well. But
if you're at the stage where you need help and you want an ISA to help you make these calls, that's awesome. We'd love to help you out.
Excellent. And Gus is always in Lab Code Agents, so definitely find him there. And if you wanted to provide your email, you can definitely do that as well. Otherwise, thank you all for joining. And this was amazing, Gus, so appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
All right, see ya.